and call the roll. First, I have Gloria Timmons.
Here.
Paula Johnson.
Present.
Jessica Brown, I am present. We have a quorum. Also in attendance, we have our moderator, our administrator here, Tiara Kinsella, Dr. Garth, thank you, and Dr. Garth McKenney.
Here.
All right, thank you very much. So our first item of business is looking into the Capstone Curriculum. Dr. McKenney, would you like to give us an introduction for that?
Sure. Before you is a request to support the approval of a one-year subscription of Capstone or Pebble Go for use at the elementary level for elementary media specialists. I attached a letter they sent to me this spring. Basically, Pebble Go offers independent reading materials for our students. It has a number of features, including compliance with Google Classroom, accommodations for 504 and IP students. It has some read to me options. This department is looking for support with this resource for 1 year, paid for by Title IV funds. So that's an overview for you in a snapshot.
Okay, thank you. So the package we're looking at is the 1 year subscription for $25,909.20. All right. So are there any of the committee members that would like to ask any questions this time? Okay. So I actually have, go ahead, Ms. Johnson.
No, I'll wait for you. I just had to flip my papers. I'll wait till you're done.
So my questions about this are, how does this compare? It looks like one of the primary things that this software does, it gives kids access to ebooks and little video links and different learning things like that, but primarily books. How was this better, worse, comparable than things we already be using the district like Epic and those kind of things?
So Get Epic is a free resource. This one is mainly for libraries and some students to get leveled books, but also have open, think of it as a digital library, almost like our brick and mortar library that kids can have access to in a broader range of books and a database. There are some limitations with Get Epic in terms of the number of the books. And that was the biggest challenge we ran into in the spring. Younger readers really need a lot of books to go through because obviously, a level ABC only has like 20 to 30 words in it. So they need a number of books to consume.
So what are these only things that are published through Capstone, or are these other titles as well, things that might be more recognizable like Harry Potter or things like that?
I don't know that level of detail. I'd have to go back and ask.
Thank you. Sorry about that. My one other major question was, do we have any intent, since this is mostly digital, we'll still have access to the Get Epic free series, I'm assuming. Is there a way to get students access to the hard copy book database that we have through the schools? Like, can they log in any way to request that any of those books be sent to them? They pick up at a bus stop, they pick them up in the hybrid model. Is there any way for them actually get hard copy materials in their hands?
We are trying to do both, but we also are trying to be prepared for should we have to be remote for extended periods of time. So if we have families that are remote only this year, this would probably be one of their resources for the year, along with Get Epic. I do have, I met with the UA's head coordinators and then the head librarian, and just like NPL, we are planning on having library books available to kids and opening up our libraries as best we can, given COVID, but we can't have them in all the resources that are provided in the computers in the schools as through the Chromebooks. There is a little, I don't know, how do you call it, technology challenge there.
So I don't have a follow-up just now. Ms. Johnson, would you like to follow up with the questions?
Thank you. As I was going through the material last night, I just wanted to know that the Pebble Go Next, this is going to work in conjunction with our reading program, the Fontes and Pinnell Classroom Guided Reading Collections. So it's going to be kind of be like hand in hand.
It doesn't take the place of, it's in support of. If kids are going to do independent reading, if they were to do a research project, if the librarians were going to do an author study and say we're going to read all the books by one author over the course of the year, they could use this. I don't think we're taking away from resources we've already paid for, but this is an addition to.
Okay, so this is going to be more library based. So our students are going to be visiting the librarian while we're on remote.
They will have a library class. They will see the librarian. They will have library instruction through our media specialists. They will use some of these books that are provided for in the subscription. Should we go hybrid, we'll have to work out the details of being in the library or giving them library books. But for now, this is really a remote option for kids to have books to read independently and do author study and research.
It also says here, read to me options in both English and natural language, Spanish, and leveled reading options. So on our English learning students, are they getting a lot of the language of English to learn to offset the Spanish? So when they're in class, they're more integrated with the language, so they're understanding it more?
Well, the goal of the English language learner program is to have students become proficient in English. So that, along with support from this program, would provide supports and scaffolds for kids whose first language is not English. Yes.
So I guess that's a follow-up question for me. What is the data that we have on all the students in our system from, let's say, kindergarten to 12th grade? How proficient are they now in English? And can we get that information?
I believe that information has been provided to the board on ELL proficiency. The request here is relative to providing books to children K to 5.
I understand that. Okay, so how proficient are our students from K to 5 at this point with all the books that I'm just kind of curious, especially, excuse me, where we had lack of schooling more and we did more remote. And I think the public and the board needs to know, where are our English learning students right now? And how much did they lose with the pandemic on the remote learning? So I'd like to get more information on that. So this way we're making sure that if they're going into this program with the librarians and everything, that these students are not falling behind. Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Timmons. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Ms. Timmons, go ahead.
I'd like to approve the 1 year subscription of the Capstone Pebble Go support funded by the Title IV grant. I need a second. I need a motion to support it.
Yes, thank you very much, Ms. Timmons. So would you like to second that, Ms. Johnson? I was actually considering listening to the rest of the presentations before we make our motions this evening.
I'm not going to second it. I'd rather listen to the remainder of the presentation if there's anything, especially anything more that needs to be said on this.
All right. Thank you. Is that okay with you, Ms. Timmons, to wait until later in the meeting? All right. Thank you. All right. So let's go ahead with, I actually did have one more question regarding the Capstone Pebble Go program. This assignments, did the librarians assign specific level books virtually to the kids, or is this a software recommendation based on what the child has read in the previous session?
So the media specialists have a curriculum they've developed. So they do follow a scope and sequence over the course of the year. This resource, reading through their recommendation letter, is they're recommending this because of a lack of quality online books accessible to students. And it's critical that students need for the future. I don't know if they necessarily assign them, but for example, I didn't include the PowerPoint in the presentation, but if they were to do an author study and read one of their books, typically they go to the library, younger students hear a read aloud, they do a little Q&A about the book, kids go out and check out books, and then they return back to the classroom. So this is an opportunity for librarians to follow a similar pattern to that and allow kids to have access to kind of a digital library as opposed to a traditional bookshelf.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson, you have a question?
And when you're talking about books, what kind of books exactly are these? I'm just kind of curious what kind of books we're having our younger kids read. Some of the authors.
I don't have an author list that lists all the books.
I'd like to see it. I'd like to see some of the authors.
Science.
Do they get any books on history? Any history books that kids might want to read?
I do believe
about history.
I do believe this one and Get Epic both have a pretty wide breadth of their catalog is pretty wide on subjects. I know there's like a lot of science books in the Get Epic, and they do cross curriculum stuff. So I think I can confirm that.
Well, I'm just kind of concerned. I hate to talk over you, but I'm just kind of concerned on what kind of history books that these kids are reading and what kind of just books they're reading in general. And I'm sure a lot of parents would probably like to see a list of books that's being offered to their students. And I'm, as a board member, I'm kind of curious too, what books are going to be offered to these students at early ages. Thank you.
I do have a question.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
Goff, is these books for what age groups are we referring to? From K to what?
These are for all 12 elementary schools,
grade.
K to 5.
K to 5, okay.
And I feel like we're kind of losing our way a little bit here. We're talking about ELL proficiency, and we're talking about our social studies curriculum. This is providing a digital resource for all kids just to read books online. There is over $300,000 in this grant. There's capacity here. This is exactly what the grant is for. It's called the Title IV Student Success Grant and Enrichment Grant. It is to provide enrichment and high quality opportunities to kids. The librarians.
I have no issue with that. That's why I recommend to approve it. I read the whole thing already, so I don't have to ask you a lot of questions, but I just know that it's a grant and that's money coming to us. And so we're not losing any money, and it will enhance the reading opportunity for all students and not just some students. So the more books we have in our library, the better off we'll be, period. And that's not just books on history, that's all books. I can talk about American history books. All I want is in the African American books. You can go on and on and on. So the key is to get these books in the hands of our students. And I have quite a few students in the school system already. And they are meaning I have a lot of grandkids. So like 13 right now is in the schools. So I'm really curious about this. And I know the more books that they can have accessible to, the better off they'll be. And I have a kid today that just broke his collarbone. Yeah, it's a long story. So that's one reason why I'm tired. yesterday. It happened last night. So, and he needs to read, but he's not in that age group that you're referring to because he's over at the high school.
Something just as a sidebar, Gloria, this is a cool thing. No, I was going to say this is actually going to be helpful for your son and anyone who might be listening at home. The Nashua Public Library and and also Kindle has open source, anything that's access to open source, American classics, a lot of Newbery Award winners, and like anything that's we read when we were kids, or like Shakespeare and that kind of stuff, going way, way back, and even things in the last 80s, 90s, 70s, is available online for free and on Kindle and also through the library. So just a little heads up for people. Go ahead. Sorry.
I just want to know why we're debate books this free grant is going to give us. That's all. I mean, it's a grant. It's a title, and that's all I'm asking is why we're arguing about it, or why we're there's money coming into us, and why we.
So I would say the reason I would be a little bit questioning this is I want to make sure that something that's this costly is going to be making sure that we're getting access to multiple publishers, not just a single publisher. And I'd also like to know that we have, or we are trying to find ways to get hard copies of books into kids' hands as well. Just because I think there is going to be a lot of virtual, digital time. So time on computers spent. I think it's going to be really important that we have some access to hard copy, paper, tactile things for these kids. I think it's especially at the elementary level, their brain development is dependent on it. I like the idea that this service offers a read to meme option for kids that need that extra help. But I think it's something I want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to spend this grant wisely enough to make sure that we can offer not just virtual curriculum, but hard copy curriculum as well. All right, so we will move along. We will come back to this in just a moment.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead, Ms. Crimmins.
No, Paula has a question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Paula.
I'm not trying to stall anything. I'm just asking questions because there are some kids that like to read history, and even in a library, they look for these books. Mm-hmm. And I'm just kind of curious what type of material this is going to be that the kids are going to be reading. And, it's free money, it's grant money, but it's still taxpayers' money that came from the federal government. And I want to make sure that this money is being used wisely and that we have a good selection of books. And I'm just kind of curious, what kind of books and who the authors are, because just out of curiosity. And I'm sure parents would like to know, too, if anybody can listen in these days. Thank you very much.
Okay. Grandparents, too, by the way.
Thank you very much. All right. So next item up for business. Let's talk about learning A to Z razkids.com. So Dr. McKinney, you're saying that this one was to adopt the resources for elementary literacy in grades K through 5, Fontes and Pinnell Classroom Guided Reading Collection, Fontes Pinnell Classroom Interactive Read Aloud Collection, and Foundations, and Raz Kids. So this, just correct me if I'm wrong here, this curriculum coincides with the Fontes and Pinnell curriculum, correct?
So to be accurate, this is a resource. It connects to our curriculum. It was previously approved, but because of the amount, I just brought it to the committee for affirmation of purchasing it just for 1 year. As you know, a lot of the free resources that are out there are coming to an end. They had been generous with opening it up for our teachers, but now not so much. So while this one is based on, you can see there are 251 classrooms, that's based on enrollment rolling into this year pre-COVID. So there may be an adjustment to this quote, but this is a resource that was already approved. But I would like support and approval to be able to purchase this year, again, using curriculum funds. And these are more in line with books that you would see in a classroom for kids in terms of guided reading, some independent reading, gives tools for teachers to do professional development, some sight word work, opportunities to do running records. So this has a little bit more digital tools that we can use this year, given the remote and hybrid year that we're looking ahead to. Thank you.
Thank you. So the cost for the single year would be that you're seeking approval for is the $25,025.32, or were you thinking? Or you thinking? So we're not looking at the $67,000 at this point. That would be a multi-year subscription, correct?
Correct. We're just looking at a 1 year. I would say up to that 25.
Okay. And is that depending on how many children enroll the program, or how many kids are enrolled in the school district?
It's based on the number of classrooms. So that was based on the number of K to 5 classrooms. Certainly, I hope it stays at that number, but I think I'll know more this week.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see here. Does anybody from the committee have any questions about the RAS kids? All right. Oh, thank you very much. If we don't have any more questions about RAS kids at this point, we'll go ahead and go to the next item on our agenda, which is the Lucy Calkins. Let me see here, Lucy Calkins Units of Study Virtual Teaching Resources. So we did approve a Lucy Calkins curriculum packet earlier this year. And this one, I believe, focuses on writing curriculum. And so we do have a lengthy packet. Did you want to bring that up and talk about it for a moment, Dr. McKinney, or was that just for our reference?
I can just speak to it here. It's in the memo I shared. We're using Lucy Calkins K-8, but given COVID-19, Teachers College, who writes the curriculum, came up with a couple of special things in response to COVID learning loss. So they have some additional features for teachers, including student videos. They revised their scope and sequence to combat kind of the learning loss. There's teacher PD. There's some parent videos that are included in there. And there are a lot of resources for teachers for both hybrid and remote instruction. They typically don't do stuff like this. It's usually the curriculum is what it is. Our curriculum coaches got a special sneak preview for 7 days and went in and checked out all the resources that are there. And they do find this is something that would be of huge value for our teachers, the kids, and parents too. So while a new resource to the district, it's kind of like a 1 year thing of a 1 year subscription. Again, it's based on the number of teachers that we'll have teaching remote and hybrid in K-8 and using funds from the curriculum budget. So I just got a quote the other day. It's again about $25,000, but again, that number could change based on the number of staffing, student enrollment, classrooms, etc.
Well, thank you. That actually makes sense since we're going to be implementing this already, K through 8. Any extra resources we can get, and now we have the opportunity to adjust our curriculum virtually that we're already using in the classroom, so that we can make sure we have continuity for kids that are following this material. Between they're moving from 6th grade to 7th grade or 5th grade to 6th grade or whatever for next school year as well. That makes a lot of sense to me. All right. Well, if we're just going to keep on following this format, is there any questions from the committee? Go ahead, Ms. Timmons. Ms. Timmons, you're on mute.
I'm curious to know if we used any of this material in that when we went into remote, in March, or it's all brand new.
We used the original Lucy Calkins K-5.
Mm-hmm.
This year we're piloting it in 6 through 8, but we didn't have all these kind of supportive resources that Teachers College is putting out there now. So these are, I think, would be very helpful for everybody involved.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Timmons. Good question. Ms. Johnson, do you have any follow-ups?
No, thank you for asking.
I do
Thank you.
have one other question.
Oh, go ahead, Ms.
Is it
Timmons.
possible to use any of this information, any of this material prior to school opening? Or can parents go online and get information regarding this material?
We have some preliminary information that we can make available to parents. My goal is to try to turn some of those features on this week and have it ready for parents and teachers, because they're going to be getting ready to start the school year. So yes.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Okay. So let's see. Our next conversation is about Zern curriculum. So we're looking at, sorry, my screen just changed. All right, so for the past 5 years, the free version of Zoom has been used in elementary school teachers' classrooms since we've been using Great Minds in Eureka Math. The paid version includes extra resources for teachers and students for hybrid and remote instruction, student-teacher videos, teacher professional development, daily digital assessments, and revised SOAP and sequence. So, Dr. McKinney, would you like to talk about what Zern is and how, specifically, I'd like to know how well it is connected with our Eureka Math, since we now have that approved also for K through 8, I believe. I want to make sure that they are closely related and we're not talking about two different curriculums here.
These are very closely related, more in line than other resources we have. So we've used the free resource of Zern, but the paid version gives us access to those cited in the memo. So while we used to pay, say about $30,000 for a math assessment that we use, 3 times a year, this gives us more assessments, a revised scope and sequence due to COVID laws, some learning recovery resources, videos for students and teachers, and this really does match up with our Great Minds Eureka Math curriculum K to 8, but this resource here would be for K to 5.
Thank you. So can you walk me through what a Zern assignment would look like? Is it, so in the spring, I think a lot of the parents will recognize Khan Academy, which is kind of one of the things we did for the emergency teaching, is how does this relate to that? Different, better, the same? Would you still be using Khan Academy in addition?
Sure, we could use Khan Academy, as a support, but Zern is built to match up with Great Minds and the instructional model. So whenever there's whole group, there's digital lessons, they can do the fluency work on there, word problems. There's little digital assessments they can do. They can practice their math facts. And then there's shorter, I would say, assessments that as parents have probably seen the mid-module and the end-of-module assessments. There's some shorter versions that are kind of quick hits for teachers to use with kids to see what learning has been achieved and then what's next for instruction.
Okay. So how would you perceive an elementary school math class, virtual math class? How would that go? Would you say, would they have a Eureka lesson and then follow up? I don't know. Maybe that's not a good question. A way to ask that. Does anyone from the committee have any questions at this time?
I just have a question on the W-9. I've never seen anything, a W-9 attached to anything. So I was wondering why we have a W-9 attached to this. I know what is the purpose of a W-9. I just wanted to know. I just never seen it that way attached to any of our other curriculum information.
It came through in the quote and it looks like it got put into your packet.
That's
So,
what it was.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to fill it out. No homework. Madam Chair, can I say one thing?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
I think I just want to make it clear that using Zern is in addition to the teacher instruction. So this doesn't mean, teachers are going to tell parents to go watch this Zern lesson and then do the homework. This is an additional support beyond the direct instruction that the teacher gives, whether it's live on Zoom or from a recorded lesson. Does that help?
That is exactly what I was looking to hear. I was wondering if this is essentially watch this video and do this assignment and that's your math for the day, or if this is an additional supplement to enhance your classroom curriculum with your teacher instruction.
Exactly. I know I've been a teacher, I've been a parent. I think we've all been in situations where you have a hard time explaining something to somebody and you say, have them tell it to you, or here's another way of explaining the directions to students and parents. It's just another resource. But to your point, I don't see this as taking the place of getting to know your classroom teacher, which is really the expectation for the month of September.
Thank you very much for that. Just for the program itself, so we've been using this for the last 4 or 5 years, the free version, and so what's your teacher student response? Is it warm, cold for when they use the free version?
It's kind of well known. When I was in the district when Great Minds started, Zern was a huge help for teachers in getting to know how to teach like the Great Minds or Eureka Way. It's pretty common. You see kids on a Chromebook walk you through a classroom, and you ask them what they're doing, and they'll say, I'm learning. So this isn't something new. I think there is high familiarity with the resource. It does come with some PDs, so we'd have to do a little bit of training, but since there's a common knowledge base out there, I don't see it as something that we can't support teachers with.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any more questions about Zern this evening from the committee? Okay, thank you very much. All right, I believe that is all of our curriculum subjects. So the reason I wanted to go to the end, I want to talk about where we're getting this money from a little bit, and if there's something on the horizon that we need to watch out for, if it's coming along to make sure that we're spending those grant funds, since they're one-time funds, correctly, and to see something, if there's anything that we need to hold in the back burner moving along. Because I think right now with these 3 items, are we talking about $100,000? Is that correct? Is it about 25 a piece? Or is I'm sorry, the first 2. So Capstone I should have Mrs. Johnson do this part because she's always got the numbers in front of her.
Not tonight.
Sorry, I'm kind of scrolling up and down. All right, so we've got 25,000 for the Pebble Go. We've got 25 for the Raz Kids. The Lucy Calkins, which that's a sidebar. I won't talk about my opinion. I think it's fantastic and we need to keep doing it. I don't see immediately the price. If you can see it before me, ladies, let me know.
Okay.
Here it is, $32,500.
And so far you're at $82,500.
Yeah. And the Zern math is, sorry, this is way down at the bottom of my page. The Zern 1 year. I don't see it right here.
On the quote, it says 30,000 for school accounts, and then on PD, so 32,500.
32. All right, so 2,500. All right, so about 32,500. So we're like right around $100,000. So is this all All right, 115. Thank you very much for tabulating that out while I'm scrolling through the virtual screen. I also miss paper. So the one of them said that it was from the current curriculum budget. And then there's 3 items that are coming from our grant funds, which totaled what, $300,000, right? You said they were coming from a specific grant we had $300,000 for.
Yes.
So do you feel like that is there other things that you're going to be coming up with in the next couple of weeks that we really need to make sure we're appropriating that? Are we going to run out of this grant before we get all of our virtual learning set up?
I don't have a magic ball, but I could speak to, I think what you're asking. Can we look at the second page of the curriculum updates? I just want to be clear with the committee in that. So Zern, using Zern in K-5, along with Eureka Great Minds and Happy Numbers, which is more like a kinder version of Zern, would really take the place of using iReady Math at that level, because it matches what we do in the classroom, and those funds are in the curriculum budget. But when I'm asking for approval to use that money for Zern, it's basically you pay about the same for iReady, but we just use iReady 3 times a year to test or assess kids. If you use that money for Zern, now you have all the features that come along with it that we can use all year long, as opposed to just 3 times a year to assess kids. Plus, we do have some concerns about, testing kids too much in the fall, because basically, if you look at the schedule, when we come back in October, the commissioner has kids taking assessments in grades 4 through 8 in literacy and math. And we don't need to test these kids after everything they've been through. It's all about getting to the learning. So we want to do quick formative assessments and then keep the learning cruising on ahead. So the funds for Zern would come from that place.
Okay, and those will be acceptable for us to use as our testing. They'll meet our testing requirements, so that we don't have to do also iReady in addition to it.
Exactly. I think the principals and the coaches and the teachers I've spoken to, we're just trying to bring down the testing. I don't believe there's research out there that says testing during a pandemic is a great idea. These kids want to get connections and get back to some normalcy and routine. So we're trying to find something that, matches our instruction, does what we need it to do, and get some added tools. And some of the games here and there are fun. So that's why the transition from iReady Math to Zern. Does that help clarify your budgetary questions with that?
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that it's, I like the idea that it's integrating the testing more, as opposed to having to sit down and focus on those single outside things. And the Zern matches up better with our Eureka curriculum than the iReady does, because sometimes those things don't line up evenly. Then it makes sense to me to do that. Yes, Ms. Johnson, go ahead.
Thank you. Well, you brought up the testing. So how are we going to find out which students have fallen behind significantly? Because that's my concern here. My concern is the special ed, the ELL, and also other students that couldn't do the remote learning. And we know some of these students are going to, well, let's put the special ed and the ELL aside for right now, because that's a whole different ball game, as we want to say it. But the regular ed kids, how are we going to find out who's fallen behind significantly? Because there's kids who have ADD, who can't sit in front of a computer. I can't sit and be in front of a remote computer Zooming all day long. It just doesn't work for me at 66. So how does it work for a child that's young and can't, just doesn't work for them? So how are we going to find out? Because we don't want them by 3rd grade not being able to read, because after 3rd grade, we start losing them more and more. And the goal is not to lose these kids. The goal is to continue to have these kids prosper in their learnings and graduate. So what are we going to do with that? So what are we going to do with finding out what kids significantly fell behind?
So I'll just share what I've shared with the admin and the coaches. The first month is really about building connections with kids, SEL and trauma. And then we get into October, we will have to do those state assessments. The commissioner is asking, say you're a fourth grade student, you're going to take the third grade assessment. So we'll see where your gaps are in third grade learning before your fourth grade year really begins. And that's all grades 4 through 8. And then after that, our plan is in October, if we're in hybrid, to do a lot of assessments in person, particularly in the area of literacy, which I think is best done in person. I don't think there's a lot of people who don't agree with that. And then it's all about seeing how kids are doing, finding the gaps. And I have a lot of confidence in our teachers, our reading specialists, all the people involved who can find those things. Zern would be a tool in that, our kindergarten screening tool, our literacy assessments, common assessments at the middle school. But it shouldn't be this big burden where a kid gets a Chromebook for 6 hours to do a state assessment or a big test. It should be, I think the perception is when you hear the word assessment, you think test. The word assessment really means what's next. What do I have to teach next? And what do you already have a firm grasp on? And then in the spring, seems so far away. When you make it to the spring, there's the traditional state assessment again. So we'll kind of have like a pre and post assessment to the year, and we'll be able to evaluate where kids are. I think all of that is framed in, is it at the end of this, your packet there? Yeah, the state assessment schedule. It also has the special ed assessments in there, as well as the ELL assessments in there, and, assessments at the high school. So, I do think, going back to Ms. Brown's point, one of the other agreements we made at the elementary level is balance. We're not doing everything digitally. We're not being on Zoom for 8 hours a day. And we're not doing everything on paper pencil, but somewhere in between is that happy medium of I can get my library book. We're putting together learning packs, we're actually pre-K to 5. We have some cool watercolors and popsicle sticks and all kinds of stuff going home. We have science materials going on for kids to do experiments. So I do think we have to get those hands-on learning and not just be, testing or, looking at Zoom all day long, because fatigue is a thing.
Thank you for that, Dr. McKinney. I would like to get down to that information that you've prepared down at the lower part of this document, the last half of this thing about the updates for remote learning. So I think it might be a good time to talk about making our motions to approve or not. I am going to be honest with you. I don't know if I'm fully on board with the Capstone Pebble Go curriculum at this point. I feel like I almost need a little bit more information on what else we've got going on in the district, but I don't want to say no to it. But I don't know if I'm personally ready to vote yes to send it on to the full board. I know we're in a time crunch, but out of these curriculums, that's the one that is making me question a little bit. However, Ms. Clemens, go ahead.
I think that our expert, which is Dr. McKinney, wouldn't put that there if it wasn't ready to be voted on. I think we need to trust his wisdom and vote on this. I think he knows it better than us, and it really kind of irks me and parents that we don't rely on what an expert would think. We're not. And if Dr. McKinney, who has that PhD in front of his name, say that this is a good idea, I'm not going to question him. And I have reasons to question other people, but not the experts. And the experts, and I have kids in school, and I want the best for them too. Just so you know, I am a grandparent. My kids are parents. I have a lot of people I know. This weekend was a perfect example of all the parents I talked to, hundreds of them, literally over 1,000 of them this weekend. And they want the best for their kids. And they want us to listen to the appropriate people. And the people is not, sorry to say, us as the experts. We need to follow their advice. And that's why I think this would be good. And if you don't approve this, you denying my family and the people out there, that's we're also parents too, this opportunity to get the stuff they need based on what you feel instead of what the majority feel.
Yes, Ms. Johnson?
Thank you. Over the last several weeks with the surveys and everything, parents have been outraged because not every option was put in a survey. So I listen to the parents very carefully. I read the emails and I read how upset parents are. I understand they're the experts, but we were also elected. And if our judgment and we feel and we're not comfortable with something, then we can't vote on it. And, I'm a grandparent, I'm a mother. My kids don't live in Nashua at this point in time. But, you can't always do something just because it's for your family either. You've got to do what you feel is right. So I understand where you're coming from, Ms. Timmons. I understand where Ms. Brown is coming from. And if she feels she needs a little bit more information, hold it in committee and have Dr. McKinney bring it to the full board, or send it to the full board with the option that that you're going to get the additional information that she needs. And you could put that in the motion. I mean, it's very simple. Doesn't have to stay in committee. It can go to the full board with the proviso that we get the additional information that Ms. Brown wants, and then the full board can then decide what they want. I mean, it's not hard. It's not rocket scientists. We don't have to be. And, there's a lot of problems now because of the fact we're doing something on territories that we're not used to doing. And we're used to having kids in a classroom that we could see the progress. Now we're having them either hybrid a couple of days a week or remote. And some kids are going to be able to do it, some aren't. And kids want to get back in the classroom, and parents want some of their kids back in the classrooms. So, this is uncharted territory again. So, why don't we make the motion that we'll send it to the full board with the proviso that the additional information is provided for Ms. Brown. And then this way at the full board, if she decides she doesn't want to vote for it, then she doesn't have to. This way we're moving the process along.
I don't think
that's fair enough.
That's fair enough. I just don't think we should hold things up for our kids. And not that talking about my family, which I do have a lot of them, but other people that talk to me as well. Like I said, I talked to over 1,000 this weekend alone. So I don't talk to the same 5 or 6 people that send us email. I talk to a lot of people, and I'm really well known. And I'm just telling you that we need to really listen to what our experts are telling us. We don't know. This is new territory for them as well. It's not just for us. It's their territory. They're the experts, and they need to tell us what we need to have done so they can teach efficiently. Sorry, Dr. McKinney.
Dr. McKinney, would you hold on one moment, ladies? Dr. McKinney's been raising his hand. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure.
Madam Chair, I respectfully ask that the committee approve the resource, garner all the questions that the committee has, and you and I will schedule a meeting to meet with the head librarian and answer all those questions. We have 2 weeks to the beginning when teachers come back, and then probably 2 weeks after that, school begins. It's probably going to take all that time to do the back work to make this resource available. So by the time it gets to the committee or the board level, I think we'd have all the answers to your questions. But you're looking at 13 to 14 media specialists who put this forward and are asking for our support. So if we can support them and their work with kids, I think it'll be a good start to the beginning of the year. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Dr. McKinney. Mrs. Johnson?
Yes, thank you. So I would suggest you put your questions together, give them to Dr. McKinney, let him answer it and have all the answers for the full board. So in case anybody else might have the same questions, the answers are there. So this way, hopefully, it's not going to make it till this Wednesday's board meeting. I don't think so.
No. I think it's a shame if we don't put this forward and you're denying
Ms. Timmons, can you please, I think you've made your point. Thank you.
So to be honest with you, you have looking at the schedule, it wouldn't have made it to Wednesday's meeting anyway, because the agenda's already been set and you already have all your information. It won't go to the full board until the 16th of September. You actually have another curriculum meeting 1 week prior to that. So I think we have plenty of time to make sure everything happens and goes through the right channels. So whatever you decide, you have some meetings set up and scheduled. So.
Thank you, Ms. Kinsella. Will that be enough time, Dr. McKinney, for if we delay this until then to get it on the next board meeting, to make sure that your teachers and librarians have what they need before the end of the school year to do their professional development and all that kind of stuff? Or then at that point, are we delaying it too long?
Again, I would suggest, preliminarily approving the resource. It's in a grant pending approval. By the time that comes back, I just feel like I'd have to work out something with the vendor for them to be able to basically turn on, like the PD and stuff, and then following it with a purchase order. But if I can get all the questions that this committee has, I'll make sure they're answered, this week without a problem. But if you want to move that to the next September meeting, it is what it is. We'll find a way to make it work. That's pretty much the motto this year anyway.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Johnson.
Do we have any other special board meetings coming up?
We have one on Monday, the 24th.
Could that be ready for Monday, the 24th? To send it to the board for September 24th meeting?
August 24th, you mean?
Is it August 20?
It's next Monday is another special BOE. So if you wanted it to, if you got all the answers, yeah, we could put it on that agenda. Absolutely.
Would that work for you, Ms. Brown?
Yes, I would love to have more discussion on that. Would anyone like to make a motion at this time?
I made the motion to approve it. I can't hear you. You're not.
Oh, I'm sorry. Would you be willing to take an amendment that am I shouting?
No.
Dr. McKinney, you look like you're having a hard time hearing.
No.
All right, I apologize. All right, so would you like, I will second your motion to approve the Capstone Pebble Go curriculum.
Okay. Do you have a second? So you have to vote on it. Just second it.
I know that. Thank you.
Mhm.
Ms. Timmons, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Brown votes yes. All right, moving right along.
Motion passes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Next, let's move to the Learning A to Z RAS Kids curriculum. May I have a motion to support?
So moved.
Thank you very much. The motion will be to support the approval of a 1-year subscription to learningatozrazkids.com for use by elementary school teachers, supported by funds from the curriculum budget. From Ms. Timmons, I have a motion on the floor. May I have a second?
So moved.
All right, seconded by Ms. Johnson. And Ms. Timmons, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Brown votes yes. Motion passes unanimously. All right, next item on the agenda is the Lucy Calkins curriculum. Let me find the motion here before we do anything. All right, I would like a motion for the committee to support the approval of a one-year subscription of the Lucy Calkins Units of Study virtual teaching resources for use by elementary and middle school teachers supported by funds through the curriculum budget.
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Timmons. May I have a second?
So moved.
Thank you. Seconded by Ms. Johnson. Ms. Timmons, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Brown votes yes. Motion passes unanimously. All right. Finally, we're going to go to the Zern curriculum. Let's see here. Hold on. All right. Can I have a motion to use the Zern supplemental curriculum for the 2020 school year?
So moved.
May I have a
I'll
second?
second.
Thank you. First, motion made by Mrs. Timmons, seconded by Ms. Johnson. All right, Ms. Timmons, how do you move?
Yes.
Or how do you vote? Yes. Ms.
Yes.
Johnson, how do you
Yes.
vote? Yes. Ms. Brown votes yes. The motion passes unanimously. All right. We have no more motions for right now. Let's go ahead and talk about those fabulous curriculum updates.
I think they're fabulous. Not many people refer to them as that, but I agree with you. They are fabulous. I know we haven't met in a while, and sometimes it's hard to see the work that goes on behind the scenes. So I provided an update to the committee showing how the end of year funds were utilized from purchasing books at the high school level, a collection as well at the high school level, some reading assessments for elementary and middle school, as well as some additional novels at the middle school, like the Giver and The Outsider, a middle school classic.
For 1 minute, Dr. McKinney, would it be helpful
Sorry.
for us to bring the, oh, it's all right. I appreciate that. Would it be helpful for us to bring this up on screen? The document, Ms. Kinsella, is that what we're looking at, the last 3 pages of this, or would that not be very helpful?
I actually I didn't load it.
Oh, okay. All right.
Do you have it? Because you have, I know that you are looking at your screen, you can share it as well.
All right, let me see here.
And I can always work to get it over here too.
All right, I'll do my best to do a screen share here.
Okay.
Would that be helpful, or you just want to talk, Dr. McKinney? That's also is just fine.
Whatever works for the group is fine.
I have it in front of me, so.
Can you
that's
share
fine.
are you able to share your screen? Okay, that's fine. Ms. Johnson, do you have access to this document?
Do you want me to share it, Madam Chair?
Which document? I don't see it.
The curriculum update.
The
don't
curriculum
have it.
updates?
I don't have it on my computer.
All right. It's right here. All right, just go ahead, Dr. McKinney.
You
Oh
see
yeah,
now?
there it is. Yes, thank you very much.
Yep. So you just want to go, how about a section at a time? Any questions on this first 5 bullets?
Yeah, that's great. Just give us kind of an overview and we'll kind of follow along a little bit as you go.
Okay. Then the second part is an update on the curriculum budget that was approved by the board. Our new science materials at the K-5 level have been ordered. The cool thing there, we're working with the Nashua Education Foundation on Science Center on ordering some supplies. So as I talked to earlier, we're looking to have some learning packets go home with kids. So we should have some science handouts along with some science kind of learning kits for kids to do some hands-on science this year at the elementary level. Amplify at the middle school level is continuing. the Lucy Calkins just print materials that were approved last year, not the new ones we spoke about tonight, have been ordered already. There's a large foundations order that's over at the plant ops barn, and we have about 14 or 15 people going over there this Thursday to divvy that up for the schools. We're working on getting our elementary report cards prepared for this year, along with the parent brochures. Frontline is our PD tracking software, arranging professional development throughout the year. Brought that on district 2 years ago, so it's been renewed. And some of the print materials that go along with Great Minds Eureka have been ordered and should begin arriving in the district at the beginning of September. So that section there. Let me keep going. Okay. Systems of Care grant. This was approved, I don't know, I think this last year. But even through COVID, we've been continuing doing the work around building up capacity for behavioral and mental health and mental wellness. So we're targeting a couple of schools here, and we have a great district community leadership team that meets with representatives from the schools, district office, and our community mental health organizations. So we're looking ahead to identify some PD, craft a mission statement, and acquire some more resources for them through the grant. Along with the capstone that we talked about tonight, based on feedback from the remote learning subgroup, the kinder and K1 teachers are really looking for some additional resources that meet the needs of younger kids. So they'll hopefully be seeing Seesaw, Happy Numbers, and EGSI, which is kind of like a game-based skill tracking software for kindergarten students. And then here's some other resources that the World Language team has been working to identify over the summer. And again, those have been applied for grant funding, which allows them to do a lot of their curriculums online now. So they can do a lot more assessments for listening, speaking, reading, and writing through those assessments. And we spoke a little bit about assessments there. I just want to be clear with the committee that in literacy, K-5, our goal is not to use iReady reading, but hopefully use the tools that we have that match our instruction as well. And hopefully do that at the middle school level as well. We're working on a plan for that. But that's all contingent on, the pivot to hybrid learning and having kids in that we can lay eyes on and assess them.
So Dr. McKinney, can I ask you that about the assessments? So the goal is not to be using iReady to assess where kids' standards are, or where they're not standards, where their level is at that point. Was before we were using that for other subjects too, or just for reading?
So we used iReady in grades 1 through 8 for math and reading.
Okay.
So the goal would be not to use iReady as much, really just use Zern for math, use our literacy assessments at the elementary level, some literacy assessments at the middle school level, and if there's funding remaining, we might use some iReady money to use for iReady subscriptions where they can do the online instruction to help kids, bridge the learning gaps that they might have due to COVID.
And are all of those assessments, will they meet whatever the criteria is by the state that we're planning on trying to switch over to meet whatever the requirements are that they're bringing forward?
So these are local assessments. The state assessments that we'll be using in October, and then I mentioned in the spring of next year, those are the state assessments. And they do have free versions of those that teachers can access. That would also be a great learning tool because they match the state assessment. It's nothing that the kids wouldn't be unfamiliar with. So that's another resource. But the goal of our assessments is to have them match the instruction that is presented to kids in the classroom.
Okay, thank you.
And then Canvas, I know there's a lot of chatter about Canvas. Some districts, about 50 of them, are moving ahead with it right in the beginning of August. Based on our technology feedback, over 80% of our teachers like Google Classroom.
How you feeling?
So for consistency's sake and continuity, we're going to stay with Google Classroom to do some of the kind of back-end work as needed for Canvas so that we're ready to launch it when we're all ready. They both do the same thing, but I think given the feedback we got from remote learning, consensus was, we can't have too many things out there and confuse parents and kids. We're trying to stick with one thing and clarify the expectation that, you can't just post something on Google Classroom and walk away. You got to support the learning for kids, and you really got to support the parents. The next section talks about PD. So we have a great learning summit on Google PD coming September 3rd. We have 100 virtual seats for that. We have some presentations for teachers on the new competency-based education report cards. I gave you a little overview of some of the PD that happened over the summer. And then I just saw a second draft today of our remote instruction handbook. Ms. Kinsella and Ms. Hines, our great proofreaders, are working on that, and we should have an update on that, I would think, at the next board meeting. But I was in an hour-and-a-half meeting with the elementary principals today, working that out and trying to really be clear with the expectations. And I think the clearer we are, it's more fair for everybody involved. So parents know what kids are going to be doing. Kids know what the expectation is. Teachers know, so we can observe and evaluate them and support them. And then wrap some resources and PD around that. So, I know it's been something on everyone's mind, but we're trying to do it right, and it takes some time. But I think we have a pretty good product that should be coming your way. So there's probably more happening, but that's what I included in the update.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate you being willing to share your screen there. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Oh, is there more?
Oh, I just scrolled. This is the state assessment schedule that I was referring to.
Excellent.
And this is that first assessment that kids are going to be taking in grades 3 to 8, and then the other state assessment that happens later in the year. So I'll stop sharing that.
No, it's very good. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So after your meeting today and moving forward with the parent handbook, do you have like an overview of how an elementary school virtual day might look? How might a kid, because since we're all starting remotely to begin with, or is that still kind of in flux?
I do, but I'm on my home computer. It's on my work computer. But we did narrow down. I know the first maybe draft was just an overview about the early release schedule. And we'll be talking about this on Wednesday, but it's important, and I'll share it here. So the early release schedule needs to be followed for the early and late schools. I'm sure everybody's familiar with that, because when we hopefully transition to hybrid, parents are all along the same schedule, and that our transportation schedule matches that. So the early schools will follow the early schedule, the late schools will follow the late schedule, and then we went in and broke down that whole day, what it would look like, just like if you were a kid in the classroom, like you go over calendar, your schedule for the day, and we arranged what all the times would be in terms of instruction from the teacher, how much independent time kids would have, built in all the subjects, unified arts, all of those things. So I think it's pretty comprehensive. I don't have the full document in front of me, but again, the goal was, some of the emails that I've seen from parents is, I need to know what to expect so I can adjust my work schedule. And really, we also were trying to plan and support kids or families that may have daycare challenges, or, what if I'm offline and I'm at the Boys and Girls Club and I miss my math lesson? What am I supposed to do? So we're trying to build in some answers to those sort of things.
Thank you very much for that overview. Do I have any more questions or comments from the committee regarding the updates? Go ahead, Ms. Timmons. Oh,
Well,
you're on mute, Ms.
right,
Timmons? Okay.
yeah, not about the updates, but I was wondering, it's a total different subject, but it's part of curriculum. And I was wondering if we can get some African-American literature in our curriculum, starting with pre-K. I have a lot of information I can send to Ms. Brown and you could look at it. I think it's important that I can see a variety of things and not just one thing. And I think they should have something that looks similar to them, because our school is so diverse that we really do need representation. And I don't think we have one now. So
That's a wonderful idea. We'd love to see some information on that. Dr. McKinney, if you could forward that to Dr. McKinney, that would be very helpful.
okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Johnson, do you have some comments?
Yeah, I guess if we're going to do that with the African American community, should we be doing that with like the Hispanic Latino community too, to kind of put that so people can have some information about that too, because we have a lot of Hispanic in the area too, that are in Nashua.
I think anything we can do to add more diversity to our curriculum is great. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. And so I think we should put that on the agenda down the road to talk about what kind of things we're doing to enhance our curriculum in those ways.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. So I guess is there anything else you'd like to share, Dr. McKinney, at this time?
No, Madam Chair, we're all set.
All right. Thank you very much for all the effort you've put in this week. Thank you to the other committee members. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
And from Ms. Timmons, I have a second. Motion made by Ms. Johnson. Ms. Timmons, on the motion to adjourn, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson, on the motion to adjourn?
Yes.
And Ms. Brown votes yes. We are adjourned at
6:43.
6:43. And you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you very
Good night,
much.
all.